Justin, what if I told you all you have to do is just be a good person to get to heaven? What would you say?
No.
Yep. So today on this episode, we're going to look at verses that tell you being a Christian and getting to heaven is just more than being a good person. We're going to show you is actually following the will of God and doing what He's asked you to do. You see, in Acts chapter 10, there was a good man. His name was Cornelius. In Acts chapter 10, verse 1, there was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of what was called the Italian regiment, a devout man, and one who feared God with all his household, who gave alms generously to the people and prayed to God always. This was what people would call a good and great man. But the thing is, though, even though this was a good and great man, he still did not follow the gospel completely. So that's why we are told at about the 9th hour of the day, he saw clearly in a vision an angel of God coming in and saying to him, Cornelius. And when he observed him, he was afraid and said, What is it, Lord? So he said to him, Your prayers and your alms have come up for a memorial before God. Now send men to Joppa and send for Simon, whose surname is Peter. He is lodging with Simon, a tanner, whose house is by the sea. He will tell you what you must do. So even though Cornelius was still a good guy, he could have kept on doing the things that he was just doing right there and still being a devout man to all the people. If he didn't do what was about to happen, he would not have been accepted in the eyes of God. So the angel of the Lord told Cornelius what him and his family must do. And we go to the very end of the chapter, we see in verse 48, we see the apostle Peter there, and he tells them what they're supposed to do. And what does he say? And he commanded them to be baptized in the name of the Lord, and they asked him to stay a few days. Cornelius was a good man, but he was not a Christian. He did not fulfill everything that God had said at that point. But it wasn't until he actually did what was asked of him that he was considered in the right path of righteousness. Yeah, it's going.
Okay. So now we're going to move on to Matthew chapter 7, verses 21 through 23. It said, and the Lord said to them, Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name, and done many wonders in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. There we're talking about there's a difference between doing the right thing and doing the right thing for God. There is a difference, and it may not sound like there's a difference because if you're doing something good, it makes you feel good, it makes you feel like you're on the right path. But there's a lot of things that you can be involved in that may sound like you're doing good, but it doesn't mean that you're doing them for the glory of God. Many times we base our actions off of our feelings, but what we really need to be doing is studying the Word and looking into it to know what the right thing to do is for God.
Nowhere in the Bible do we find a verse that says all you have to do is be a good person to make it to heaven. And even kind of Christ emphasizes that a little bit on the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 5, where he talks about, For if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet your brethren only, what do you do more than others? Do not even the tax collectors do so also? So here's the thing. Christ was trying to emphasize to the people of his day, the people they had looked down upon, that, look, these people, they greet their brethren, they love them, but it doesn't mean that it makes you any better. That's what just people do in general. The thing is, we're supposed to be looking at the Word of God to see if we are following the commandments of Christ. That's what it says in James. In James chapter 1, in verse 22, it says, "But be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves." So, if you're not looking into the Word of God, I'm sorry, I'm gonna just flat out tell you, you're not gonna make it to heaven, because you're not actually trying to figure out what you need to do to make it there. This is the guide for us. Our feelings are not the guides to make it to heaven. A man is not gonna save us, but Christ will. And it's by following His message, which is absolutely true, not our own feelings, which is always wrong. So, just being a good person is not going to get you to heaven. Being a follower of Christ and doing His will get you to heaven. What was that cool little thing you said?
There's no GPS coordinate to heaven. This is the roadmap.
Word.